Hi, everybody. We're going to wait a little bit for people to get on to join. But if you're here, go ahead and join, and we will be starting in a little bit. So just sit back and relax. We'll play a little bit of music.
We walked on the street up and noticed he was nameless. He was homeless. She asked him his name and told him what hers was. Gave her a story about life with a glint in his eye. One on the road smile.
Hi, Ashley. How are you? Mary.
If you notice when we were up sometime. Someone come and again. It's built to break more. The only dream I've been chasing is my own. So I sing a song for the hustlers, straighten out the bus stop. Sing one of the we on the deck to come. It's just stolen, just the sun of my mind. Oh, they don't get to know. Keep on keeping out. You'll find that someday. Raise up, love. Back to the kitchen, talking to the driver about his wife and his children on a run from a country where they put you in prison for being a woman, speaking your mind. She looked in his eyes in the mirror and he smiled. One conversation, single moment. The things that change us, if you noticed when we look up sometimes. So I was hoping, yeah, never break the mold. Only dream I've been chasing, it's my own. So
we're going to give it we will start at, I know it's supposed to start at 7, but we're going to start about 7:05 to allow other people to join, and then we will get started. The webinar is a 5-step blueprint to healing for authentic success. And I think you guys are really going to like it, and I really feel that this is where you need to be today. So thank you.
holding on. There's just something so strong somewhere inside me. And you don't get open. Don't tell me just yet. I've been
Okay. So before we start, I want to make sure everybody can see the slides. Can you raise your hand or let me know that you guys can see the slides? Hey, well, let's get started. My name is Pamela Murphy, and I'm founder of Extraordinary Life Coaching. And today we're going to talk about the journey within, the for healing for authentic success, because we have all the success. We think everything looks great, but it looks great on the outside, right? But not on the outside. It looks great on the outside, not on the inside. I'm sorry. So I'm truly grateful today that you chose to be here and spend this evening with me. Um, I'm not for sure how you found it. It was just from word to word or through Instagram or YouTube, but I am glad you're here, and I really do feel that there's a reason for you being here today. This evening is not about me giving you more things to do. It's about help you create a strategy so that you don't have to always think that you have to be productive. And it's much more deeper than just more things to do, like make sure you do this, make sure you have your list of things that you need to do in the morning, make sure you meditate, make sure you do all that. All those things we already know, but then it's about exploring what's going on within. So what I want to do is before we start, I want to have you give yourself permission to be here today, not to have, make sure you turn off your phones, make sure that you have a notepad to take notes, but most of all, just give yourself permission to be here. We're going to do some breathing exercises to get everybody to relax. And I do want you to remember that you don't have to, we're not here to fix anything because there is nothing to fix. There's nothing to prove. There's nothing to say for you to judge who you are. I just want you to notice what you resonate today as we go through this. So as we start our breathing exercises, I want you to take one breath. We're going to do four breaths. Inhale and exhale. So for the first one, breathe in, hold to 4. Exhale. Next breath. Inhale. Exhale. Next one. Inhale. Exhale. And the last one. Inhale. Exhale. This is an invitation to come home to yourself. I'm going to give you a little bit of my story. For years, I thought that pretty much my whole life, I'm going to say, where I believe success was the answer. I actually worked really hard. And if I figured out if I worked harder, if I accomplished more, and if I helped everyone else, then eventually I would feel it's enough. So from the outside, it looked like I was doing great, had a career, was doing very well, have a family, and everybody depended on me, right? That was my go-to because everybody was dependent on me. So that made me feel like I was very successful. And it took me a while. I wish it wouldn't have taken so long, but it did take me a while. Um, that I had to figure out things like because I thought I had it all figured out. But on the inside, very, very exhausted. I'm disconnected from myself, always chasing the next accomplishment. If I completed something, I would go and I would chase the next thing. And I really truly believe that would bring me peace. Um, I thought that's what you were supposed to do. But what I had done was all my accomplishments were tied to my worth. Nothing was it who I was. It wasn't tied to me. It wasn't tied to my authentic self. It was tied to everything that I had done, chasing the next thing, having everybody think that I was, the great one and always depending on me, always knowing that I would take care of it. That's what I thought it was about. That's what I wanted everybody to see because that's how I saw myself. And I had to really understand why that was going on. And it really was hard because I never understood that. I never understood, why I was always tired or, I would disconnect from everybody. It wouldn't be just from work. I would even disconnect from my family at family functions and stuff. It would be like looking at my watch because I just wanted to go home and be alone. So that's where I came up with this is because it can't be just about all the things that we do, but you still feel like empty on the inside. So the next thing that I realized was that there are survival patterns that we live by. And so as I began to look deeper, I realized about these patterns, right? And these are the patterns I found. And that's something that we're going to talk about a little bit more because everybody's patterns, survival patterns are different. And these are the patterns that we use to create the person that everybody sees on the outside. So for one of the ones is, especially for women, is a high achiever, where the worth comes from what you accomplished, people pleaser. I put everyone else's needs before mine, often thinking that without it gets to the point you don't even realizing you're doing it. So that's a people pleaser. And the perfectionist, which actually the perfectionist was like my best friend. Because if I made a mistake, a normal thing people should do is say, okay, let me look at the mistake and see, how, explain to me so I can fix it or just look at it and say like, oh, okay, yeah, I missed this, and you move on. But we question our worth. You'll say like, well, I think I did everything right. What did I do wrong? Because there must be something with me. Why can't I understand that? Why is this so hard? It wasn't hard. It was a mistake. And I got to tell you, I just recently understood that within the last 2 years of my life that everybody makes mistakes. There's no such thing as being perfect, but having a perfectionist helped me control everything around. So if I worked long hours, that was because I wanted to make sure everything was perfect. I wanted to make sure if I had a meeting the next day with the founders of the company, I wanted to make sure that all the questions, all the slides and everything that my spreadsheets, everything were just perfect, right? So if they did question me on something, my face tells a story. So my eyes would get big because I'd be like, no, that's right. But then I really wouldn't look at it until I got back or, you know, somebody would say, hey, can you just look at this? Because I don't think the numbers are right. And I'd be like, oh, okay. But in my head, I was having a breakdown, literally like, oh my gosh, is this meeting almost over? Because I can't believe that happened. What we don't understand is that these patterns help us to survive. They help you to feel needed. They help you to feel validated. They help you to be in control. But then the bad part is they also become the patterns that keep you disconnected for yourself. So it's like we create a inside box where we're just boxed in. So no matter what you do, you can't move forward because you have your survival patterns. So as we look at the screen, I want you to write down which one of these do you feel that you are? And I'll give you a few minutes. Okay. And before I move on, does anybody want to share what they have or which ones they think that they are? Okay, we'll go ahead and move on. So my next thing is as we look at when we look at ourselves, the patterns that we have gone on for so long that it's eventually it's who we are, right? Because I used to think that all these things are things that I was, the perfectionist, the people pleaser, over responsibility. Those are truly my survival patterns. But and there's probably a lot more, but I thought that's truly who I was. That's you know that's me. That's my personality. But I'm realizing, like, what if burnout isn't really the problem? It's just a symptom of what's going on. Because the real root of the problem are our survival patterns, the patterns that keep us going for a long time, but eventually consistently carrying them can leave you exhausted, disconnected. And that eventually leads to burnout. And I think the symptoms are actually so much deeper because we don't realize that we create these survival patterns. These are something that are learned. They're not, they're just not here. We're not born with them, but something that as we go through life and careers and family and all that, it's really something that is learned. And, beneath the patterns and there's fear beneath the patterns. It's always the fear of disappointing others. Um, and the fear basically of disappointing yourselves. They started because at some point they helped us to survive. But over the time, we just kept ignoring them. I've talked about it in my other, live Instagram post. And one of them is like, we don't pay attention to our nervous system. And our nervous system will tell you that something's wrong. You'll start getting headaches. We carry all the stress up on our shoulders. We don't listen to those, or you get this feeling inside. And so what we tell that is like, your voice is saying like, hey, can you stop a minute? I need your help. We say, okay, I'll come back to you later. I understand you do all this mentally, but you know what something's going on, but you say, right now it's just not a good time. It's just not a good time for me to stop and deal with this. So over the time, we start ignoring our own voice. We start ignoring what we really need. And again, the whole thing, we keep choosing everybody else before we choose ourselves. And the more we do that, again, and this is going to be a big word for today, is disconnected. We truly become disconnected from who you really are. And that's where, you lose connection with your needs, you lose connection with your voice, you lose connection with your values. And then the last one is you lose yourself. Lose your authentic self. You don't really know what you want, what you need. You don't use your voice. So you stuff everything down on the inside and say it's okay. So then all your survival patterns pop up to protect you. And it's like, it's like having soldiers on the inside with their little swords up, like, when you want to go see the queen, but those guards are there with the pointy swords going like, and now you can't come in, right? But that is what it's like on the inside for us. Because if our nervous system says something's off, those guards come to protect you. That is your survival patterns. If you're a perfectionist, you're going to look at everything because you're saying like something's not right, and your like anxiety pops up, you're stressed out. So that's how your survival patterns show up. And this is where the journey begins, because the journey really begins from within. We can do everything we want on the outside, but on the inside is where the journey really is, because that's where everything is. That's where our feelings are. That's how we learn to control everything. But also, society has said feelings aren't real. Just remember that those things you're feeling, they're not real. You need to look at the material stuff. That is what's real. But actually, learning to love yourself from within and look at all your patterns is what needs to be done. And that's like I just said, that's where the journey begins. And if you remember only one thing from today, I want it to be this. There is nothing wrong with you. These patterns aren't who you are. They were learned. And because they were learned, they can be unlearned. Healing isn't about becoming somebody new. It's about reconnecting with who you've already been, who you were born to be. It's not like creating all these other facets to it that you feel like you have to keep adding on. No, we need to take away and just come back to your authentic self. Are there any questions? Okay. So there is 5 steps. So it's actually a roadmap, I'm going to say. And I really wish I had had this years ago for me to show me all this stuff. But there are 5 steps that are about not about being somebody different. They're about finding your way back to who you truly are. And it begins with our very first step, which is awareness. And when I say awareness, it's not just like I've gone to other programs and they really just touch on awareness and never went in deep on it. But awareness is when you can say like triggers, right? If, for me, if something was wrong, or if I had to tell somebody I didn't want to do something for somebody, but then I would say, "Oh, okay, I'll go ahead. When do you need it? Oh, yeah, yeah." Even though I already had a stack load on my desk, I would go ahead and I would do that. And inside I would be upset. I'd have these like huge conversations with myself. I'd have to go outside because I'd be so upset. And so awareness is just a little bit deeper. I feel is a little bit deeper. So this is the one thing. Now that you understand awareness means, I want to take a moment and turn that inward. So the statements that you see up on the side is, when you look at those statements, I want you to write down which one really resonates with you today. Because maybe it's the one where I always put everybody first. Maybe I feel guilty when I rest. And maybe you're connected, maybe you're connected worth to all your accomplishments, or maybe you just spend too much time taking care of everything and everyone that you don't even know that you don't even know what you need anymore. So I'm going to give you a few minutes, and I'd like you to at least put down one that you feel is you. I'm typing, I'm answering a question. My screen was not sharing properly, so it just popped up. So I'm answering questions. So I do apologize for that. Learning this, so I do apologize. There's one here from Ashley that says, "I'm ready to connect with my authentic self." Um, I've been on this journey for about, I'm going to say probably about 10 to 12 years. Actually, the beginning was just, like I said, going to different webinars, going to different events. and they talk about this stuff, but a lot of it was more about the mindset. It wasn't about looking within. It's about, make sure that you have the positive mindset, you're making sure you meditate and you do all, you do A, B, C, D, F. But what I started realizing as I start doing my own healing, I started realizing that how can I have a positive mindset if I've got all this junk inside that is actually quietly controlling my life? Mhm. Okay, wait, I did something. Hold on. There we go. Okay. Um, so that's how I got started. So I really feel that you have to reconnect from within. I think I clicked. Sorry, I think I clicked the wrong thing. So we're back to awareness. I apologize. Awareness is the first step because you can't change what you don't see. And you have to be honest with yourself, and it's about recognizing those survival patterns and those beliefs and your emotional habits. For years, it was just, I always thought this was just my personality, right? I'm an overachiever, I'm just very responsible, and I'm just driven. But if you see yourself like that, then those are our thoughts because that's what our survival patterns are doing to keep us safe. Our survival patterns keep us safe, sane, and secure. But those survival patterns are something that we've actually created ourselves. And I can't tell you how that happens. I'm going to research that a little bit more, but that's something that we create it to help us survive. And I think our nervous system does it. I feel that it's like, when it feels like we're wonky and we're just like all over the place, that's when those traits will start. And the sad part about awareness is that until you actually acknowledge what the awareness is, you'll see that what's been going on, that these patterns have been quietly running your life. For me, the main big one for me is fear and disappointing. So those things really have been quietly running my life, like fear of disappointing others, fear of not getting everything right. Everything for me is based around fear. So fear has quietly been running my life. Oh my gosh, what if nobody comes and watches me? Oh my God, that's the worst thing, right? But I allowed that so long that I have this huge onion that every time I strip back one layer, then another layer comes up. But what's great about awareness is slowly you start noticing your triggers, and then you actually will say like, okay, yeah, this did happen, but then you look at other ways to look at it and look at it truthfully instead of just saying, well, this shouldn't have happened, start the blame game and pointing fingers. So the awareness is very, very much important for the journey within. So as we're here, it says, um, for authentic self, you might recognize these thoughts yourselves, right? And so, like, I can always say that I always put everybody first. I did feel guilty when I rested. And the last one is truly 100% me. I believe my worth came from what I accomplished. And as an example of that, I just published my first book, and it's really a big deal. But what I do when I accomplish things is that I like, oh, good, look what I did. And I only enjoy it for a few minutes. And then I'm on to the next thing. Like, okay, what do I need to do next? And I didn't realize that the other day when I did that until I woke up the next morning and it was like, I ran. I just did something amazing. And it truly is for myself, but I didn't celebrate that. So I still am learning that. But the difference was I became aware of what I did. And that's what awareness is. You might not recognize it right away. It might be 2 or 3 days, and you'll come back and be like, why did I do that? I was tired and I decided I wanted to rest. Why am I feeling guilty about that? So take a moment to reflect. And again, which one of these most resonate with you today? Then we have what comes up next is once you become aware of the patterns that you carry, the next step is one of the hardest is to release. And release doesn't mean pretending the past didn't happen or simply telling ourselves to get over it. I know a lot of times that's what people will say, and I know people have said it to me so often. Just get over it. It doesn't really matter. Just move on. It's in the past. You can't change it. You're right. You cannot change the past. There's nothing you can do about it. The past is the past, but it doesn't mean that I keep carrying the past with me. You've seen like YouTubes or memes that show somebody holding, it'll say your past or something, and it's this big bag, and you're carrying it with you everywhere you go. It's like that sword, it's your sword of honor. It is actually your badge. It's your badge of honor. So we carry this stuff with us like a badge of honor, and it's not. It keeps you stuck. And to get over it, you have to acknowledge your patterns. You just can't say, okay, well, hey, that's okay. You're right. It's just always there and there's nothing I can do about it. Well, no, you can't get over something if you're just holding on to it because it sits there. And what happens is we will, for a while, just let it go. And your biggest trigger, whatever that is, will trigger and you'll just get upset, you'll blow up, and then you have to go back and apologize. And I'm the one that would always go back and apologize because a couple of days later, it's like, God, man, I was a patooed ass. I shouldn't have got upset about that. So that's why it's very important that you start understanding and let go because these burdens, your survival patterns truly keep you stuck. And one thing I will say that once you understand your patterns, it actually starts to become the beginning of your freedom. For where you're able to be free and not want to do everything for everybody, and it's okay to make things about you and not to be exhausted all the time. And I talk about on the slide here, I have self-abandonment, and that's just when you just don't think you're worthy of anything. You don't think that you should make anything about you. If you do, you feel selfish. And that is the biggest part about that, about self-abandonment. You will put your dreams, you will put the things that you want to do on the back burner. And you'll say, well, it's okay because that's what I need to do for my family, or that's what I need to do for work so that, they can see how amazing I am. And the fear behind all that. So it's about really, and it's hard. Releasing is hard. I wish I could be like, oh yeah, once you do this, you'll be no, it's a journey. It's 1 second, 1 minute, one day at a time. Um, Release can be as simple as giving ourselves permission to believe something new. And I'm going to just read what it has on the screen. This is what release should look like. I don't have to be perfect. It's okay to say no. My worth is not measured by productivity, and I can choose myself without being guilty. And I know that that's hard but those simple things to say, and I would write these down when you get like that. It's just every day, like have a little list that you look at. I used to carry a little black journal in my purse. And when things came up and I got triggered, I would write these things down. I would write down like, okay, it's okay if I make a mistake. It's okay. Your poor planning really is not my issue because you you plan poorly on what you need done and then you expect me to clean it up. So as an example of that, let's just say that you're in your office and you got everything done for the day and you're excited because you're going to get to go home early. And then Charlie Brown walks in and says, oh, hey, you know what? I forgot I have a meeting in the morning with a loan company. I'll just say with the bank. But I forgot, you know what? I need financials for the last 4 years, and I need 4 years with the bank statements. So our first thought is like, your mind is cussing this person out. I'm just going to be honest. But then you put a smile on your face and you're like, okay, what time is your meeting? And so let's say Charlie Brown says, my meeting's at 9 o'clock. So you have two options. You can say no, which in the beginning, when you're learning to release, you might not say no. You'll say, okay, yeah, I'll get it done. So you call your family and say, hey, I won't be home. I'm going to have to work late to get this done. Or it's okay to say, like, I can't stay this evening to get it done, but I will come in early tomorrow and make sure that it's ready for you to go. But then also you can add to that in a nice, polite way that, and I had to be taught this, it's okay to say, your poor planning truly cannot become my issue anymore. Because when they plan poorly, and that includes your family, your friends, and your work, when you plan poorly, and then you expect me to jump in, and guess what? That's my fault because that's what I've always done. If that's what you've always done, they don't think it's a big deal because you've always jumped up, grabbed the basketball, and always made the point, always made the 3 points. But you have the right to say, like, I will get it done this time, but we have to plan better. And that's it. And it shouldn't be a big deal. The second one is, my worth is not measured by productivity. I never really looked at that, but I always look at it now like, when you get performance raises, it's like that's truly what it is. We are measured by what we perform and what we do, and it shouldn't be based on that. But it's like sometimes I look at it now like we're circus animals, and you know what? I have to prove my worth. So that's where that comes from. It's like we have to prove who we are so that we can get our raises, get our promotions, because that truly is what productivity is based on. So that is something that we definitely learned. And the last thing is, I do want you to do one of the things, and the answer doesn't have to be perfect. Just choose one that really just really resonates with you. Step three is when we reconnect. So the reconnect is creating, you release, right? You release the space. Now you have space there because you let go of all one of your survival patterns. So say you take one at a time. And so if you only knew how to take care of everybody else and you made sure everybody else's needs were met. So reconnecting is rediscovering your authentic self. And that starts by listening to your voice, to honor yourself, honor your needs, to trust your inner voice, and remember who you were beneath all the roles that we had to learn to play. For all those roles we learned to play, we have that mask and we wear the mask on the outside of us. So that is about reconnecting, is truly about coming home from yourself, coming home to yourself. So it's just learning to listen to, the main thing is learning to listen to your voice. And your voice may come out with how your body reacts to something, how your nervous system is. That's our GPS. Or if you just notice like you having meltdowns all the time, that's just because now you truly are reconnecting to yourself. So the old you is still there, and you're reconnecting and coming in alignment with your authentic self. It's like a push and pull, and it takes time because you're laying one part down and you're saying, no, this is who I am. And so you have to start every day, those things that we just talked about. You make up your list of like, for me, it was like, no matter what happens today, today's going to be a perfect day. I do not have to be perfect. And I have the right to tell you no. And we need to come up with a better process. Those are the things that help you start releasing the old patterns. So this is what reconnection looks like. You need to ask yourself what you need. You need to honor your feelings without judgment. Feelings are real. And what comes up, you need to stop and honor that. and don't judge it. Don't add any attachment to it. Don't add anybody to it. Don't add any blame. Just honor what you're feeling. If you're feeling upset or you feeling like, nobody ever sees you, that is truly how you're feeling. But then honor that and just do it without judgment. But then write it down like, why do I always feel like, no, I'm invisible? Because that truly is a feeling. Feeling of invisible is real. Why am I feeling like all my friends, my family, and everything abandoned me? That is a feeling. And you also need to choose what aligns with your values, not the values we are given by our parents, by our teachers, by our friends. What is your true value and align with it? If those are your values, those are your values. They don't belong to anybody else. They belong to you, and you need to align with it. And the more you become aligned with your values, the more you have that push and pull because you're saying to the old you, I'm not going to be that person anymore. This is who I am. The last thing, trust your intuition, which is your inner wisdom. Trust it. Don't let anybody else say, oh, no, don't feel that way. I used to do that all the time. I'd be like, but this is no, 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 no. And something inside me would be like, that's just not right. But I would go along with it because I didn't want to upset anybody. I wanted everybody to see me, right? So that's what that is. But trust your inner wisdom. The next part is the part where we have to rebuild. Um, and this one's like when you rebuild, so that's the next step. It's rebuilding your lives from a different foundation, not from the foundation that we created to survive, our survival patterns, but it's setting the boundaries that you were meant to be. And you're not being selfish, right? I was taught that doing things like that meant you were selfish and you were only thinking about yourself, but that's truly not what it is. But rebuilding teaches us something different. Boundaries aren't about rejecting people. They're they're about no longer abandoning yourself. It's like the story I just told about Charlie Brown, right? When Charlie Brown walks in, you're setting a boundary, basically saying like, hey, you know what? Your poor planning cannot be my issue all the time. So let's sit down and talk about what we need to do to make this better. So that's how you do that because when you don't, you abandon yourself and then you get angry. And then the only person you're really angry at is yourself because you didn't stand your boundaries. And if people know that they can push your boundaries, they'll do it every single time and you'll always let your boundary down. And then when we're rebuilding, it's where we begin making choices rooted in our worth, choices that honor your needs, our values, about the person you're becoming. We weren't never taught this is something that we have to learn because we don't see ourselves. Like I never really saw myself as having value. Um, and so if I don't see myself as having value, how is anybody else going to see the value that I have? If I don't set the boundaries, then they know it's okay. It's like a doormat. It's okay to walk all over me because I'm not going to say anything. So learning to do these things, or not learning, but it is learning, sorry. Learning to do these things sort of flips everything around so that you are creating your new foundation for who you're becoming. And don't ever be ashamed of it. And one of the other things that because we become ashamed that we're changing because you'll start losing people along the way because you're not the person that you used to be. And that just really bothers people sometimes. And also that this is not a quick fix journey. It's not like you're going to do all these things and then everything's going to turn around. It really is one day at a time. And it's one survival pattern at a time because you've got to get used to doing that. And the one that comes up the most is where you start. But never be ashamed of what you're doing. Never let anyone tell you that you're okay just the way you are. Well, of course I'm okay just the way I am because you get to walk all over me. I'm the doormat. So of course you don't want me to change. But and this includes, don't think it's just with work, but women who are high achievers, who have really done a lot, we do this with our work, our family, and our friends. So it's the combination. You've got this group that you just gravitate to, and that's fine. But then They're used to you being the, I'll just do anything because I just want everybody to see me. And people see that in you. And it's crazy, but people will see that in you and they might gravitate to you because they know that that's who you are. So what does rebuilding look like? You need to set boundaries without abandoning yourself. You need to make choices based on your values, not from fear. I think a lot of times I make choices based on my fear, based on people getting upset with me, based on not, maybe getting that promotion or getting a raise that year, based on being rejected by friends and family. So I made a lot of choices based on that. Prioritize your needs and do not feel guilty about it. Prioritize, I can't say that word now. Make yourself first. And there's no reason to do it. And there's no reason to feel guilty. There's no reason for it. I mean, you need to make yourself first. You need to make you a really important of this journey. You can't put yourself on the back burner. You can't make yourself invisible and hide. Because when you hide, then we're back at the survival patterns. And you need to define success on your terms for yourself. So the reflection question I'd like you to write down, what is one area, what is one area in my life where you're ready to rebuild differently? So before we sign off, I'll go back through the Q&A once before the webinar ends to let you know. So I'm not ignoring your questions. So the last part, step 5, is the rise. Rise is where everything we've talked about comes together. We, we become aware of the patterns, we release what no longer serves us, we reconnect with ourselves, and we rebuild from a stronger foundation. Rise doesn't mean, Rising doesn't mean that fear is going to disappear because it's always going to be there, but it means fear is no longer making choices for our lives. That we're choosing to live from who we are becoming, guided by our own voice, our own values, and the life you truly want. So when we live in fear, we don't create the things that we really want. We create everything from that. We create everything from fear, right? The decisions we make, the choices, anything that we do it from fear. So another thing that, we talked about is quietly running your life. So and let's just say you have these things, you have a vision of what your life should be like and what you want to do. We always think that we can't change it. Society sort of has us thinking that too. Society sort of says, oh, this is where you're at. I used to always think, like, is this the best? Is this the best for me? Is this the best it's ever going to get? And that's what made me that's when I started looking at my life. But you truly can create the life that you want. But it's first, before you have to do that, you have to start working from within. You don't get to just jump from, okay, I'm going to change. And people do that, but then you always end up reverting back to your old ways. That's where people end up making mistakes and it's just really sort of makes it hard. Um, so, I want you to make a list of, what is it you truly want? What does your desired life look like? Make a list, you know, that lets you live your authentic life, the choices that honor your voice, your values, and the life you truly want. What is it that you truly desire? What are your dreams? What are your passion? What is your purpose? And always remember that where the reflection question says, um, what would you do if what what would you choose if fear was no longer making the decision for you? So what does rising look like? You're trusting yourself using your voice to make your own choices. You're trusting yourself. You allow yourself to pursue what brings you joy, define success on your own terms, and move forward even when fear is present. And I can tell you that moving forward, is very, very important. And even when you're like, "Oh, I don't think I should be doing this." Today you begin the journey within, but awareness is only the beginning. Your journey doesn't have to end here. If this is for you, you're tired of putting everyone else first, you're ready to release old patterns, you want to trust yourself again, you're ready to create success on your own terms. And if you're ready to create, well, I just said that, success on your own terms, and you want to create success that feels good on the inside as it looks on the outside. And if you recognize yourself in any of this, I created a journey within with you in mind. Your journey doesn't end here. Oh, I missed a slide. Nope, I didn't. Okay. Sorry about that. Your experience, your journey doesn't end here. I have a the Journey Within package, and it is weekly meetings for 90 minutes group coaching session. We have live coaching and personalized support, a deeper journey, a deeper journey through the 5 steps, and then 2 private 60-minute one-on-one coaching sessions with me. So your invitation is called the Founding Group. It's limited to 8 women. It's $9.97. If something inside you is saying it's my time, I invite you to take the next step for the journey with Hen. You can use a QR code to scan, and it takes you to an application that you can fill out, and then I'll be reaching out to you. We still have a few minutes, so I'm going to go back through the Q&A. And if there's and I just want to say before somebody's saying like, why only 8? I've intentionally kept this group small because I want to be able to be able to really support your experience with each person and not have a huge group, because then somebody's always not going to be seen, and I want everybody to be seen and be able to work with them. I feel like it's about there's no perfect answers to anything. It's simply an opportunity to learn more about you. And I want to make sure the experience is the right fit for everybody. So the QR code is it's a simple application. And then I would be reaching out to you, and then we would set the date for when the program would start. So if there's something within you that's saying it's my time, I invite you to listen to that inner voice. Now I will go to the Q&A. So I know one person here said they're ready to connect with their authentic self. And I think that's really good. And this is like where it starts, like just being yourself, not we tend to we gravitate to people that we want to be like, right? Or they gravitate to us because of who we are. But it's like being able to disconnect from those people and just be who you want to be, and not don't worry about what society says, don't worry about what your parents and your friends say. It's about taking your mask off and just being who you are. There's a question like, when did I become aware? I'm going to say my awareness actually started probably 2 years ago. Like I said, I would go to events and I would say, oh, yeah, I understand. But most events I would go to, it was always about mindset. It wasn't about within. So 2 years ago, I started realizing like how things would trigger me, and I would really truly have meltdowns, and I wouldn't understand because I was never like that before. But then I started becoming aware of my triggers, which were actually more stuff that was connected to things that happened to me as a child, things that even as a grown up, things that happen, like you have to it's like, and that's hard because you're digging up stuff from the past, right? When everybody says, oh, let it go, don't worry about it. You have to look into the past. You have to, because that's where everything we created is on the inside, and it keeps us sane. It keeps us safe, and it protects us. But It's protecting us from us. It's not protecting you from anybody else. It's protecting you because that's what our system thinks it needs to do. It's saying like, oh my God, she's having a meltdown. She's depressed. All this stuff's going on. So, okay, the centering guards come and say, okay, we're here and we're not going to we're not going to go here. We're not going to dig into those things. I work with a coach. Some days, some months we're good. Some months I'm like, I make a list of all the things that have come up and we'll work through it. And then, it'll come up and she'll say, okay, well, this is what you got to work on. And it's hard because you don't get to stuff it back down. And once you start this journey, you don't get to go back. You don't get to say, yeah, it's not for me. I don't think I want to do this. I think that's okay. Your soul is saying this is amazing and it won't let you go back. I've tried several times and it just doesn't happen anymore. The one person wrote, I don't know what I need anymore. And that's something you really need to look at. You need to look at what you need, not what everybody else is saying that you need, and not what fear is saying what you need. I know for me, having my purpose is truly my drive. Like being able to help women see the things that we have been taught to hide and sometimes I have to think like, how did we get here as women? But in the 70s, there was this group of women that said, we're not getting paid fairly. We're not, I can become a doctor or lawyer. I can do those things. And so they put on their cape and they become superwoman. Well, then men were like, okay, well, that's fine. I'm only still going to work. You have to still do all those things and come home and cook dinner. So we put on our cape and we became superwomen. But what everybody at that point didn't know was what the outcome would be. And that's the burnout. But the burnout was for what's beneath that. So you need to really like make a list. Just think about what it is you truly need. And you need to do it when you have peace and quiet, where you can just if you're by yourself, like maybe at lunch, just sit in the car and just write down what is it that I need and just wait for the answer because it will appear if you just start writing, it will show up. So another person said, I I feel guilty when I rest, and I understand that. I'm better, so much better at it. But growing up, my mom had this thing about us. If we weren't busy, productive, she would find something for you to do. And so down our hall, we had wooden floors, and one of the boards, no matter how much I think my dad tried to fix it, it just creaked. So if I would be in my room and I would just be laying down and I hear the creak, I would automatically sit up because why are you resting? There must be something you can do. So I am still in that phase of like, that's why I think when like after creating a book and it's in the publishing stage that I was like, okay, what's next? Instead of saying like, hey, I need to enjoy this and I look what I've done, it was just like that's the productive part where that's what I grew up with. So for me, that's going to be a really hard habit, survival pattern, not habit, it's a habit for me to break because that's what I did. That's truly how I am. I mean, I remember that board, I can hear it creaking in my head right now. And sometimes I wouldn't hear it, and the door would open, like, why are you resting? Are you tired? I might got some things for you to help me out with. No, I'm just laying here because I fell asleep. Um, and the next person said, I refuse to be a doormat. And I actually am very proud of that because I was a doormat. Um, truly, truly was a doormat. And I'm glad that you do refuse to do that. And that's hard for a lot of people. A lot of people will just go ahead and say it's okay. Um, so keep doing that, but then also look at what you need because being a doormat, not refusing to be a doormat is fine, but you also need to know what you need and what parts of you that you are abandoned, are you doing self-abandonment? And I think the last one, set boundaries without guilt. Um, well, you also don't you refuse to be a doormat, so those two go together. So I do applaud you for that. Um, I wish I would have known you before, because those things are really good. Those two go together. So that those two are your two values that you're in alignment with. So there's the last question is, if I lose fear, what I start doing is will start believing in myself and making mistakes is okay, because then that would lead to the right decision. Just keep moving forward and let God make the way. And that's truly it. One of my mentors that I do follow, and I know I need to cut this off or it's 8 o'clock, but we're going to continue for a few minutes. One of the persons when I was younger, I always followed was Walt Disney. Because when I was younger, I used to always say, I'm never going to work for nobody. I'm never going to do that. Um, but one of the things that I liked was like when he was, trying to create Disneyland, he filed bankruptcy twice, went to over 400 banks, and one of the banks at the time wasn't a large commercial bank, which was Bank of America, gave him the loan. They came out to look at the property, the little land that he wanted to build Disneyland on. And then this is how, for me and anybody else that on here, I'm not preaching about God, but this is where because that's my source, where God stepped in and had him buy all that land around where he wanted Disneyland. He took out a loan for all that. So he just kept trying. And that's one of his motto is like when things happen, you keep moving forward. You don't stop. You look at it for a little bit, maybe a day or two, and then okay, get back to the drawing board and start. So don't let the things that happen get in your way. I know I'm so better at technology than I used to be. I used to be afraid to death. Like I truly would freeze up because it's like, what do you mean? I mean, the last webinar I didn't have the screens right. I went ahead with the webinar, but I didn't have the screens right. And this time I made sure that, okay, this is how we do. And like I said, I apologize. My screen share wasn't coming up, but it's really that you need to know the journey within is becoming your authentic self. And there is always fear because you always got to make decisions, but you're going to make it from an intentional place. You're going to make it with setting the intention that it's not about the fear. Like if you say like in 5 years, I want to be a millionaire. So what do you need to do that? A lot of us take those steps back and say, oh, I can't do that. That's not true. Other people that for me, I look at Bill Gates started in his garage. The same with Steve Jobs for Apple, started in his garage. The guy that does Virgin Airlines started in his basement. And look where he's at. So you just have to know it takes a while. And I'm impatient. I'll admit that. I'm impatient. Like I want it right now, but I'm being taught to be patient and just keep working toward it because it's got to grow. And you've got to see what you need to do. But being able to go back to the drawing board and say, hey, that didn't work is fine. Do not let anyone take your joy. Don't let anyone take away your dreams or your purpose. And first off, when fear rises up, you just have to acknowledge what is the fear about? Is the fear about moving forward, or is the fear about, I can't do this because that's what we have in our head. Well, I can't do this. I mean, I had that about writing my book. I can't write a book. I can't put a book together. How am I going to do that? It took me a year, but I did it. And those are the things that you have to do. And to the person that said they refuse to be a doormat and they do set boundaries without guilt, then you need to look at the other things that are out there that you wrote down and just start one step at a time. So I'm going to let you guys go. But if you have any questions, you can email me at extraordinarylifecoaching.net. Yeah, you can reach or Pamela at Extraordinary Life Coaching, and if I see it, I will answer you. I really thank you for being a part of it. And if any of you have group questions about one-on-one coaching or about the founding group, I look forward to hearing from you. And I want to thank you so much for giving me this hour today of your time. And I wish everybody to have a blessed and happy life. Thank you.